Well, I just want people to understand that you have to be the one to push because nobody's going to give it to you and you can't really take life for granted. So just get out there and create your own life because that's how it's really going to happen.
This podcast encourages and empowers you to create your own unique real story, develop your own unique real statement, and discover your own unique real self. The power is yours. Good morning, Jeremy Slate. Previously, episode 260 of the 12-Minute Convos podcast. It's been just 2 years, 11 months, 20 days, 21 hours since we last recorded that conversation.
The thing I've found throughout my career is whenever I'm in action and producing, I feel really good. It's when I stop doing something that you start to think about all these other things around you, things in the past or whatever. And when you're in production and looking to the future, you feel a hell of a lot better, man, because your attention's actually pushed out again.
That was then. This is now. Jeremy, what's going on? What's new?
Hey, man, 2 years. So are you on like 20,000 episodes now with the rate you put these things out? I just find everything you're doing, man, to be just so impressive with the quantity and the quality of what you're putting out. So, props to you for everything you're doing. I guess on this side, we've been growing really, really fast. I think when you and I had previously spoken, my previous business, which was Get Featured Media, had just ended and we had just moved into our current company, which is Command Your Brand Media, which is growing very, very fast. As I just hired a director of sales recently. Our team is growing very quickly. My podcast is growing very quickly. We're now into 600 episodes, and I'm continuing to chase well-known names and celebrities and just overall having fun, man. We had a baby in October. She's going to be a year old in a few days now on the 16th. Wow. So lots of great and cool things happening.
That's amazing. I think October is a great month where we've connected. I believe it's in October we had our first conversation. And then I believe we connected in Florida for PodFest sometime, probably like
PodFest 2017, I think.
Yeah, 2017. And of course, you've sent business our way as well, right? You send some amazing people that connect with us through the podcast again. So let's dig into something a principle that you've built your business on, which is the giving element, where you serve individuals, not intending immediately to see that return, not even understanding how it may have returns. How has that evolved?
So it's interesting because I feel like one of the things I was struggling with at the time is you have to a lot, but at the same time, you have to make money as well. So I really struck to find a balance between those two. And I think it's worked really, really well in the way that I'm always trying to give the right attention to people that are doing really awesome things. But at the same time, I've really built into our company purpose because I look at it as an individual and as a brand or as, a single person. I can only do so much and my company can only do so much. So now we're really looking to find people that are doing world-changing things. And if I can support those big world-changing people, then that makes our impact huge. So I think it's more of an evolution of where it started because in the way of giving value, at the same time, you have to balance that out with making money, running a business, and also paying your staff. So that's kind of the direction it's gone for us.
I encountered as well from these repeat conversations and seeing the growth that individuals have achieved now. What I'm seeing as well is that there's a positioning from the perspective of how can I create more change? How can I effect more change in more individuals? And that really directs strategically your focus. Has that been the situation with you as well?
No, absolutely, because we're really looking at how can we magnify what we're doing because, what you're doing is rewarding to a certain point, but there's got to be a mission into it and also at the same time being more than money. So I think really that's what it's become is we're looking at how can we do bigger things. And I literally was just talking to someone about this the other day. And it's interesting because he was telling me at 21, because this is one of the questions I started asking people on the podcast, what's something you believed at 21 that you don't believe now? And he said at that time, he thought the ultimate mover of the world was money. And that's really all he was looking at and all that was interesting to him. And I think that when you shoot just for money, it doesn't really create impact. So what's really happened in our business is we're trying to grow our impact and trying to be more and more and more on purpose and more in the way of helping world changers. And because of that, we've started making more money. We've started growing faster and we've started doing, a lot of the right things that we need to do because we're always looking at, okay, is this aligned with purpose? Is this aligned with impact? Is this aligned with everything that we're really doing? So I think for me that's really, how that's taken shape.
Now, you are a guy that works out. You focus
A bit.
on, no, your one hand is the size of my both legs. And, it's intriguing when you started off, you were married at that time when we spoke to Brielle, and the family has grown. And thus, it means that the dynamics have changed in terms of there's a team to carry now. How are you adjusting with that?
Well, it's interesting because I think for myself, not that I get up crazy early, but I just found out that number one, just getting up earlier, making sure I'm moving at 6 and getting that workout and everything in first thing in the morning. And also, honestly, all of my like small daily tasks that I have to do every day and getting those done really before 7:30 in every morning, that allows me to be much more present and much more helpful for my family and my team and everything else because I'm moving before most of the team is working and I have a lot of stuff done by the time the family is moving as well. So I think for me, I've tried to really look at how, what are my non-negotiables? I need to be in the gym. I need to eat right. I need to, do my cold showers, all that stuff to handle my body the right way. But at the same time, I need to also be present and fully available for my team and my family. So I've tried to get a lot of that stuff done much earlier in the day. And it's interesting, too, because I feel like it changes your mindset, right? Because when you're trying to finish a lot of these tasks and they're going like halfway through the day because the day itself has caught up with you, I've found that you're actually more present. You're more willing to listen. You have a better outlook on the day and things like that. So really, for me, that's one of the major things that I've done with handling it. But also at the same time, like I feel like it's a learning situation as well. It's never fully finished. It's never fully done. And I'm still kind of learning every day how to make this stuff work because it is something new. We're only a year into having a child and also having the business growing as fast as it is. The last year has really been like a rocket ride for how fast our business has started growing.
Yeah, tell us more about Command Your Brand and how you serve individuals.
So we are a PR firm for the podcast space. And what that means is we don't just book people on shows. We actually find out what's the right positioning for them. And we do storytelling coaching around what are you going to talk about on shows. So not only do you present yourself in the right way, you also add a ton of value to this audience that you're going to be in front of. So we've grown very, very fast and we're helping a lot of people, particularly in the health space, but also in the business space as well, to really get out there, tell their story, and magnify their impact. And we've grown quickly where I now have a director of sales. We have some other team members that are global. We're adding more bookers. We're adding more in terms of a PR strategist. So our team is growing very, very fast. And I think at last look, along with the couple of interns we brought on recently, I think that brings us to around 11 on our team. So we're growing very, very quickly.
It's good to hear that. It's definitely a great pleasure to reconnect and hear that you've grown, that you've not given up, right? And I'm sure there are many times you could have thrown in the towel and you did not. So again, both motivational and inspirational. One of the things you consistently consider is the problems of work. That's a conversation by the book that was written by Hubbard, right?
Yes.
How does that impact your life today? And do you still apply those principles?
100%, because one of them too, and this is something that Hubbard talks about, is the idea of when things aren't going well and you're really feeling like kind of everything's closing in on you, like client wants this and your employee's struggling with this. One of the biggest things I've always looked at is taking a walk, because you find that when you get outside and you really expand your space and you expand all the things that were closing in on you are out of that space, you find that once you get back there, you can handle a lot better. So that's one of the things that I'm applying every day. And then also just the way that I finish tasks. Every task has a beginning, middle, and end. And I think a lot of times people start a task, or they start it, and then they kind of get to that middle, and then they drop it, or they're just never finishing tasks. So for me, that's another thing I'm applying, is I'm making sure like I'm completing the things that I'm doing, because you actually find when you're completing all these things and getting through that beginning, middle, and end of every task, you're actually creating time, because the more things that you create, the more time that you actually have to do more things and the more things you have done.
The beginning, middle, and end. When we apply that to life, understanding that we are possibly at our middle of our lives, Ryan, how do you approach the concept or the possibility that you can die today or tomorrow?
Wow, that's a tough question, man. I think it's funny because I look at, I guess, other people my age or other people in my situation, I'm like, wow, I'm doing so much. But if I were faced with that, I guess I look at it, I'm like, man, I could have done more. So I guess in that way, it's looking at situations in my life and seeing how can I do it bigger? How can I go for broke? And how can I just push harder? Like you said, you never know, could this be the last time you go for it? And really, it's all about the legacy we leave behind and what we create, because people may not always remember your name. They might not always remember you as an individual, but they're going to remember the impact that happened because of you. They're going to remember the stories that happened because of you. So that's really, I guess, the lens I try to look at that through.
So important. Now, the podcast is there as well if individuals want to listen, if you're not around, which is a legacy block, isn't it, as well?
Absolutely.
Having these virtual conversations with amazing people. Where can people find out more about what you're doing, even with Command Your Brand?
Absolutely. Well, if they want to check out anything Command Your Brand, commandyourbrand.media. Or if they want to check out anything related to the podcast, that's over at jeremyryanslate.com. And I am at Jeremy Ryan Slate on all social media platforms.
Well, again, proud of you, my friend. Proud to call you friend as well for all that you've done. Got to meet you, and I've seen how you've evolved both from walking on your feet and your hands now. Well, really appreciate you, my friend. You and, of course, your supporter, right? Brielle, who's there. And now you have Adelaide as well, right by your side. So congratulations on all that's going on. You've definitely created your own life, Jeremy. In closing, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
Well, I just want people to understand that you have to be the one to go out there and do it. You have to be the one to push, because nobody's going to give it to you, and you can't really take life for granted. So just get out there and create your own life, because that's how it's really going to happen.
Love it. Jeremy Ryan Slate. Again, a pleasure, a treasure. Thank you for being on What is Inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. This podcast is produced by Pod Edits. Visit podedits.com for professional podcast publishing.